A hospital is a place where people go to heal, to recover, to feel safe. Doctors and nurses dedicate their lives to saving others. But what if one of them saw themselves as something more than a healer? At Memorial General Hospital in Texas, patients started dying under mysterious circumstances. Young, healthy individuals, elderly patients who were supposed to be recovering, families left devastated with no clear explanation. But one thing was constant. Nurse Olivia Caldwell was always on duty. She was kind, attentive, the type of nurse families trusted with their loved ones. But beneath that gentle exterior was a mind darker than anyone could imagine. For nearly a decade, Olivia Caldwell worked the night shift, when the hospital was quiet, when there were fewer witnesses, when no one would question another sudden death. At first, no one noticed the pattern. Hospitals see death every day. But then, the numbers didn't add up. 1 patient, dead. 2 patients, 5, 10, 20, all with no clear medical explanation. Then came the whispers. Staff started noticing how Olivia was always there when tragedy struck. How some patients seemed perfectly fine until she entered the room. Some nurses even joked about it. They called her the angel of death. But what if it wasn't a joke? Still, no one spoke up. No one wanted to believe that a trusted, beloved nurse could be responsible. But then, she made a mistake. One patient, one single patient, wasn't supposed to die. But they did. And when doctors ran tests, what they found sent chills down their spine. By the time the hospital started asking questions, Olivia had already vanished. But the truth was far darker than anyone expected. She could be the deadliest serial killer in Texas history, but you've probably never heard her name. This is the untold story of a woman who turned a hospital into her personal graveyard and almost got away with it. At first, the deaths seemed normal, tragic, but explainable. After all, hospitals see death every day. But something about these cases, something about the way these patients died, felt off. The first victim, a 55-year-old father named John Matthews, a man in perfect health, admitted for a minor infection. Doctors expected him to be home within days. His wife even packed his favorite dinner, waiting for him. But that night, something changed. John was found unresponsive in his hospital bed. His heart had stopped. Doctors tried everything, but it was too late. Cause of death: a sudden, unexplained cardiac arrest. His wife was devastated, but accepted the doctor's explanation. But she had no idea that her husband was only the first. The second victim came just 2 weeks later. Lisa Thompson, a 32-year-old mother of 2. She was recovering from a routine surgery, scheduled to be discharged in the morning. Lisa had just texted her sister, "Feeling great, can't wait to see you tomorrow." But Lisa, shortly after receiving her final IV of the night, Lisa's breathing became shallow. Her vitals plummeted within minutes. By the time nurses responded, she was gone. Her doctor was baffled. The toxicology report found nothing unusual. No sign of overdose, no sign of stroke. Just a sudden, unexplained death. But here's what no one realized at the time. The nurse who gave Lisa that final IV was Olivia Caldwell. Victim number 3, Michael Reed, a retired military veteran, strong, disciplined, healthy. He was set to be discharged in less than 24 hours. Michael had seen war. He had survived combat. But the one battle he couldn't win was against his own nurse. His symptoms? Almost identical to the others. Sudden respiratory failure, a heart that simply stopped, and once again, no explanation. Doctors called it a tragic coincidence, but his daughter, she wasn't convinced. He was fine, she told reporters. He was coming home. Something happened in that hospital, and I'm going to find out what. 1 death is a tragedy. 2 is suspicious. 3, that's a pattern. Families started whispering, nurses started noticing, but the hospital, they kept quiet. Because the person at the center of it all was one of their own. Nurse Olivia Caldwell had the trust of her patients, the respect of her colleagues, and the perfect cover to kill. And she wasn't done yet. Hospitals are supposed to be places of healing, a place where lives are saved, not taken. But what if the very people meant to protect you were hiding something, covering something up, protecting someone dangerous? That's exactly what was happening inside St. Andrew's Medical Center. By now, the hospital had lost not 1, not 2, but 3 patients, all of them young, all of them healthy, all of them under the care of one woman, Nurse Olivia Caldwell. But instead of investigating, instead of looking into the strange deaths, the hospital stayed silent. Why? What were they afraid of? And more importantly, who were they protecting? Inside the hospital, not everyone was willing to turn a blind eye. One man saw what was happening. One man knew something wasn't right. His name was Dr. Daniel Lewis. He had worked at St. Andrew's for nearly 10 years. He knew the hospital inside and out, and when he started looking closer at Olivia's patient records, he noticed a pattern. Every single suspicious death happened during Olivia's shift. Every patient who died mysteriously had one thing in common. She was the last person to see them alive. Dr. Lewis couldn't ignore it. He took his findings to hospital management. He demanded an internal investigation. He wanted answers. But instead of concern, instead of taking action, the hospital told him one thing. Drop it. Stop asking questions. And when he refused, when he kept pushing, he was fired. His contract was not renewed. So, why would a hospital, a place that claims to value life, fire the only person looking for the truth? Because Dr. Lewis wasn't wrong. Olivia wasn't acting alone. Someone was protecting her. Dr. Lewis was gone. The investigation was shut down, but there was someone else watching Olivia. A nurse, a woman who had worked alongside her for years, a woman who had seen too much. She never spoke about it, never told anyone. But every night she worked with Olivia, she felt a growing sense of fear. Then one night, she saw something she wasn't supposed to see. A security camera captured Olivia entering a patient's room. That patient, an elderly woman recovering from surgery, was found dead just hours later. What happened inside that room? Only Olivia knows. But the next morning, that nurse found a syringe, one that was never logged, never recorded in the system, a lethal dose of a drug meant to slow the heart. That's when she made a decision that would change everything. She leaked the footage. She sent the evidence to the press. Within hours, the hospital was in chaos. Reporters swarmed the building. The families of the victims, they demanded justice. But when they went to confront Olivia, she was already gone. A serial killer in a hospital, protected by the very people meant to stop her. How did Olivia Caldwell escape? How long had she been killing? And the most terrifying question of all, how many more victims were there? Ones we still don't know about? Let me know in the comments. Should this case be reopened? Should Olivia face justice? And if you think this is shocking, wait until you hear what happened next. At first, the deaths seemed random. A stroke here, a heart attack there. But when doctors started digging deeper, they found something terrifying. Medical examiners ran tests on several of Olivia Caldwell's former patients. At first, nothing seemed unusual, but then they checked the potassium levels. The results were shocking. Each patient had dangerously high levels of potassium chloride in their bloodstream. But here's the most terrifying part. Oh, in small doses, potassium chloride is a common medical treatment. It helps regulate heart function, but in large doses, it's lethal. It stops the heart in seconds. No struggle, no warning, just Sudden death. Because potassium chloride mimics a natural heart attack. If no one's looking for it, it goes undetected. So how did Olivia get access to it? That's where things get even stranger. Investigators went back through months of hospital security footage, and what they found was bone-chilling. Every single victim had one thing in common. Olivia Caldwell was the last person to see them alive. Patients would seem fine, then Olivia would check on them, and within minutes, they were dead. One nurse noticed something strange. Every time a patient coded, every time their heart suddenly stopped, Olivia was already there, almost like she was waiting for it. Almost like she knew it was coming. At this point, police suspected Olivia was involved, but they needed more. That's when they got the call that changed everything. She knew how to kill without leaving evidence. She bragged about it. She called herself an angel of death. A former hospital worker. Their voice was shaky, scared. She told me, "Not everyone deserves to live." That was enough. Police officially launched a criminal investigation. An arrest warrant was being prepared. But just as they were about to move in, Olivia vanished. February 14th, 2023, 2:37 a.m. The last known footage of Olivia Caldwell. She didn't clock out. She didn't tell anyone she was leaving. She simply walked away. Within hours, she was off the grid. Police checked her phone records. Nothing. Bank records? Empty. It was like she had planned this. Like she knew the walls were closing in. Did she have a secret accomplice? Was she hiding in another state? Or worse, was she still working as a nurse? Authorities began tracking possible sightings. Some claimed to have seen Olivia in Texas, others in Mexico. But despite multiple leads, the police never found her. To this day, Olivia Caldwell remains one of America's most terrifying unsolved mysteries. Think about it. If she could do this once, could she do it again? And what if I told you there was another nurse just like her? Where do you think Olivia is today? Should this case be reopened? Should hospitals be held accountable for covering up crimes? Comment below. What should happen to Olivia? Like if you believe justice must be served, share to expose this shocking case. Subscribe for more real-life horror stories. And if you think this is terrifying, wait until you hear about another nurse who did something even worse. What do you do when a nurse is suspected of killing patients? You fire them, right? You call the police. You make sure they never work in a hospital again, right? Because when the hospital administration learned about Olivia's suspicious pattern, they didn't stop her. They covered it up. No disciplinary action, no warning to the authorities, no statement to the public, just a quiet resignation. No questions asked, no investigation, just gone. A public scandal would mean lawsuits. It would mean media attention. It would mean millions of dollars lost. The hospital's lawyers made sure everything stayed quiet. No one could ever prove Olivia did anything wrong. And that's when the nightmare truly began. With a spotless record, Olivia was free to work again. And just a few months later, she did. Another hospital, another town, another chance to kill. At first it seemed like bad luck. Another heart attack, another unexplained cardiac arrest. But behind closed doors, some doctors knew the truth. Why didn't anyone say something? Why didn't anyone warn the new hospital? Because hospitals don't report nurses like Olivia. They pass them on. They hide the truth to protect themselves. They could have stopped her. They could have saved lives, but instead, they let her continue. At her new hospital, the deaths kept coming, one after another, until one brave doctor finally decided to speak out. Dr. Emily Harris knew something was wrong. She started tracking Olivia's shifts, and what she discovered, chilling. Wherever Olivia worked, patients died. She gathered medical records, patient histories. She took her findings to hospital management. And their response? Silence. Dr. Harris was forced out, her warnings ignored, her career destroyed, all because she tried to stop a killer in scrubs. And that's when Olivia made her biggest mistake. For years, Olivia Caldwell walked free. For years, she chose who lived and who died. But in a small Texas town, her deadly game finally came to an end. After months of investigation, after dozens of unexplained deaths, law enforcement finally had enough evidence to make their move. Not in a hospital, not in a big city, but in a quiet Texas town, working under a fake name at a local clinic. She thought she was safe. She thought no one would find her. She was wrong. On a quiet morning, just as the sun was rising, SWAT teams moved in. Neighbors were shocked as armed officers stormed a small suburban home, breaking down the door. Sitting in her kitchen, calmly sipping a cup of tea, like she had nothing to hide. Most people panic. Most people beg. But Olivia? She just smiled. A cold, eerie smile, like she knew this day was coming. Inside the police station, detectives expected denial. They expected excuses. But what Olivia said, no one saw coming. She leaned forward, looked them straight in the eye, and whispered, "I was only helping them." She didn't see herself as a killer. No, Olivia believed she was an angel of mercy. When detectives asked why she did it, her response was horrifying. They were suffering. I ended their pain. Was Olivia a cold-blooded murderer? Or did she truly believe she was saving lives? What do you think? Was Olivia a monster? Or did she think she was doing the right thing? Should the hospital executives also be arrested for covering it up? They never asked for her help. They trusted her, and she betrayed them. But what the jury did next, no one expected. She was careful. She was calculated. She covered her tracks for years, and for a moment, it seemed like she might actually walk free. Despite all the deaths, despite the suspicious patterns, police had a problem. No eyewitnesses, no security footage showing Olivia injecting lethal doses, just a series of unexplained deaths. And in court, that wasn't enough. Some believed she was a cold-blooded murderer. Others saw her as a misunderstood nurse. One small, forgotten detail, a single overlooked test result from a past patient, and it changed everything. Deep in hospital archives, buried beneath years of medical records, investigators found it. A patient no one suspected, a death ruled natural causes. But this test, it told a different story. The results showed a lethal dose of potassium chloride. And here's the kicker. Guess who was the last nurse to treat that patient? Olivia Caldwell. But even then, the prosecution needed more, and that's when a familiar voice stepped forward. For years, she kept quiet, but now, she was ready to tell the truth. And what she revealed, shocking. The rushed injections, the sudden code blues, the way Olivia always seemed to be there when a patient took their final breath. Because when she tried before, the hospital silenced her. But now, she had nothing to lose. And just like that, Olivia's carefully built lie started to crumble. But before the trial could conclude, investigators uncovered one last chilling detail. Hidden in a storage locker, buried under old clothes and medical books, they found it, a handwritten notebook. And inside, Olivia's deepest thoughts, her darkest secrets, marked with symbols, a cross next to some, a circle next to others. Investigators realized that the cross meant helped, and the circle meant spared. She was keeping track of who she let live, and who she chose to kill. What if the former nurse stayed silent? What if Olivia walked out of that courtroom a free woman? Because if she did, she would have killed again. Comment below. Do you think Olivia would have stopped on her own? How many more victims would there have been if this one mistake wasn't found? Should the hospital executives be charged too? Olivia Caldwell is behind bars, but is justice truly served? Many believe she got off too easy. Others say she was just helping suffering patients. What do you think? She operated for years without getting caught. Could there be more nurses, right now, doing the same thing? They let her resign. They buried the complaints. Should the hospital executives also face charges? I want to hear from you. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Do you think Olivia Caldwell deserved a harsher sentence? Do you believe justice was served? Or do you think there's more to this story? Did Olivia truly believe she was helping? Should hospitals take more responsibility for serial offenders? Have you ever heard of a case like this before? Like, share and subscribe for more true crime cases that will keep you on the edge of your seat.
Turn on notifications so you never miss the next shocking story.
If you thought this case was shocking, just wait until you hear about this one. A hospital worker with an even higher body count who almost got away. Click here now to watch the next chilling true crime case and make sure you're subscribed because you don't want to miss what we uncover next.
Like, comment, and subscribe.
Tell me in the comments, do you think Olivia acted alone, or was there a cover-up?